Alright, hello teapots. This is everyone's least favorite 3D artist, Zist Exkin, and I'm going to show you how to make dynamically floppy dongs, which is why we all learned how to make 3D in the first place. Alright, so also this is my first screen recording of anything ever, so please be gentle with me and no bully. So we got this hopefully safe for work, safe for YouTube mesh right here. It's in smooth preview. Very simple. I'll go over doing, bones and enveloping for something like this another time, but this is about the dynamics. So you can see what I did is that for every edge loop, there is a joint, and the joint has 100% enveloping on each ring, and then you'd smooth this, and then the whole envelopment would smooth out across it. But for now, it's just like this. Let's put that in reference. So we just got a bone for every ring, and now we need a spline. So this is the, what's it called, EP curve tool. You make it based on control points instead of control vertices. Now I'm holding down V right now. See this little button? So it snaps to points. So I want a control point on every single joint. Even this tip one here, which has no control over the mesh, is important for aiming this joint right here. So here, hit enter. And we're just going to move it down because it's going to get a little hard to select. And you can tell this is not really a good curve here, but it matches the joints, which matches the mesh, which I half-assed in about 2 minutes. Alright, so next thing, you want to make sure you're in End Dynamics. You go to End Hair, and you go to Make Selected Curves Dynamic. And what that does is it turns a curve into a hair follicle, which is normally procedurally generated in the most awful and unhelpful way possible. But since we made our own, it's going to be based on what we did. So none of these really matter right now because we're not making actual hair. So now there's two curves, and this is what's really annoying about it. The original one that we made and the one that's dynamic, and they're on top of each other. So, oh yeah, another thing, when you're working with dynamics, set your time slider really far, just so you can catch stuff. So you just hit play, and the drooping one is the dynamic one. You notice it's attached at the front and the back, which isn't desirable. So it's in follicle shape, point lock, both ends, just the base. And of course, you could always make it nothing if you wanted a detachable penis to flop around everywhere. But for us, it's just going to be base. Rewind, and now, oh, look at it go, like a wet noodle. There it is. Alright, so now here is where the magic happens. Up here in animation, we want the spline, IK spline handle tool. Alright, so you select the spline you want. Oh yeah, oh wait, there's something to do about this. They added a new option which caused me great consternation while figuring this out. There's this option right here. Auto create curve. Oh, and I'm in tool settings. Auto create curve. You want that deselected. If it's selected, it'll duplicate the curve you selected and make that the curve that's running the inverse kinematics. But that new curve won't be dynamic. And then if you try to make it dynamic, it'll duplicate that curve and make the duplicate dynamic, and you'll just never get it to work. So turn this off. Alright, so you select the spline you want, and you don't have to be on the first frame. The base, or the root joint, I guess I unselected it, the tip, I selected again, I guess. And there you go. And then you hit rewind. Ooh, there it goes. Yay. And you have to throw the mesh in there. Ooh, doggy, look at that. Oh, man. All right, so now that you've done that, what do you do with it? So let's see. This is curve two. Yeah, this is the dynamic one. So there's some very convenient facts about this method, and that's that hair follicles come with their own collision boundaries. Here, collision thickness. Yeah, that's down there for some reason. Let's move this to 0. There we go. So this yellow mesh is the sort of the hitbox of the hair, and we can. It's not intuitive because you'd think it would be in the collision settings, but it's actually in the hair settings. So let's see. The circumference is roughly 2 Maya units, so we'll make the hair width 2, which will of course cause it to flip out and not work. Let's see. Where are we going? See, the great thing about Maya UI is that everything's constantly changing, so you can never find what you're looking for, and you go crazy eventually, and that's the point of Maya. So let's just turn it off, turn it back on. And now it's still not thick. See, they changed this. Of course it's not dynamic. Hold on, let me pause this recording real quick before I just embarrass myself on the internet. Alright, hello again. I figured out what my problem. I wasn't on the first frame, so look for that. This is what it looks like now. It used to be these little rings, now it's this big cheese mesh. But basically every one of these cages is the size of the hitbox, and it is driven by hair width. So I judged that basically the circumference of the shaft was 2 Maya units, and I set it to 2. It's a bit fatter than that. Let's set it to 1.8. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. You're always going to get a little bit of clipping unless you did some very complicated rigid body setup. But anyway, so let's turn the cheese off. Make it so we can see the mesh. Alright, so it's roughly the same size as this. Oh, and there's another one more thing is this hair width scale, and this is for making the hair pointy at the end. It also controls the hitbox, so it's not a uniform width. It tapers a little bit, it bulges a little bit, and you can control that here. However you want, and I'm not going to mess with it right now because it's going to take too long. Okay, so what are we doing? So we got this. It's dynamic. It's floppy. Next thing we're gonna want it to collide with stuff, with all the mini cubes that we are so popular in porn nowadays. So we got this cube right here. Forgive me while I try to remember exactly. So we're dynamics, I guess, is dead. It's all about N dynamics now. So you make it create a passive collider. So passive versus active. Active means it's going to be affected by gravity. So if I made an active collider, this box would just fall. Passive colliders stay where you put them, and then a collider collides. So now it's a passive collider, and it should just, yep, there it goes. And then you're good. If you want to do really detailed collisions, which for Wang you might not need it, But the more intricate the collision, the higher resolution you're gonna want your skeleton, and the higher resolution you're gonna need the spline. Because right now, this is how far it can bend. This is it. If I wanted it to perfectly wrap over this box here, I would need twice as many joints. So you think about what the rig is gonna do, and that decides how you make it. I like being able to see the skeleton, so I just leave it like that. So, bleh. And of course, if you wanted, you know, a mesh, like a bone-driven mesh to be a collider, you wouldn't make the whole thing a collider. You'd hide like little boxes and shit inside of what's gonna collide, and that's how you do it. That's a smarter way. So the other problem is it's floppy, and it's not supposed to always be floppy. It's supposed to sometimes look like this. So how do you do that? How do you do that? Dynamic properties. So this is also completely different. There used to just be a very conveniently named option called stiffness, and that was pretty much these four options: stretch, compression, bend, and twist resistance, all in one thing. So I think really what we're going to look at is bend resistance. I mean, if you're into some kinky shit, you're going to want to use stretch resistance, but bend resistance is for you vanillas out there. So it's 1 right now, and 1 is like a floppy noodle. So let's just set that to 10 like the other ones. And without resetting it, I'm just going to hit play. And bam, there it goes. Ooh, look at it go. 10's not even that much, it looks like. Let's set it to 50. Let's move that out of the way and see how it goes. Alright, and I'll put it back in textured for the normies that can't see wireframes. Oh yeah, look at that go. There we go. So there you go. That's it doing its thing. Okay. I think that's that twist resistance. You see, it all used to be 1 option, and now it's 4. Twist resistance is 0, so it's gonna, flop over itself. Let's set that to 1,000, because we don't want our dicks getting twisted, not without our permission, of course. So there you go. It's going. Hold on, let me pause it one more time. I should have probably checked this out first. Alright, so I'm going to do another tutorial that's more in depth on, after you've set it up, how to make it, sing and dance. But for the most part, now that they've split this up, it's these two, bend and twist, that sabotage each other. You can set twist resistance up to 99999, and it's still never going to be enough. There is this other thing, though, called the start curve attract. So start curve is how it starts. This is the start curve. And this is a percentage of how hard it's going to force the curve to be exactly like this. So if you model it, in its ready-to-go position, and you set this to 1, it's basically frozen. It essentially loses all the dynamics. So there's also a curve thing here too, so if you set that like that, it'll droop in some places or whatever. Yeah. And it's also very sensitive, so you set it to about half, and it's not halfway, it's in there. You're going to want to set it to like 0.01 or something to get it halfway. No, not even halfway. So that's 0. And then ready to go at 0.028. So there, you can mess with this. There's some things you can do to get really fine control out of this. And if you ever wanted to make clown porn, here you go. That's how you do it. Alright, so that's the basics of getting it set up. That's how you do it. Alright, go away.